Welcome back to another episode of Greenlight Gathering. Basically, this is a talking-only episode where I talk about Steam Greenlight games. Previously, I covered Seedscape, and it had an update where apparently they were planning to release in 2015, but they missed it. Oops. I kind of wonder why they missed it though, because it's like, don't worry, the game is nearly complete, we're going to have a lot more to show soon here, and we're going to prove it, keep your heads held high. And it's like, it's been delayed multiple times, which doesn't bode well. Possibly, lack of experience, obviously, from Dapper Swine and his friends, and I'm pretty sure it's not just Dapper Swine who made this game. Yeah, Fairy Shivers. So yeah, oh god. Music. That's like how you get copyrighted on YouTube. It's like you play like 2 seconds of music, and apparently, you know, where's the fair use, YouTube? 5 seconds of video. So, of the items I've been following recently, I think the first one I want to look at is going to be Fatcook and Macbat 64. Now, these two games we're going to talk about, I'm going to say very similar things about them, but that's kind of intentional. It's kind of what the games are about. We're going to start with Fatcook real quick. So Fatcook, for one thing, is developed by Fatcook, which is very interesting. A long list of developers as well. It's a puzzle platformer that follows the adventures of a brave man on a mission to cook a meal that will save all of mankind. Whoa! Seems unnecessary that you need to make a meal. Seems like a fairly rudimentary thing, but okay, we'll roll with it. Okay, it's a video game. Has over 30 levels and at least 20 more to be released after the game. This scares me a little bit, but you know, you do you, man. You 5 developers, go for it. Power-ups that'll slow down. This is very nice. Social integration. This is not very nice. And these two are all acceptable. Secret rooms are something that I'm not entirely sure if I like them or not. I like them in games that are all about exploration, things like Pokemon, things like Jet Set Radio, you know? Where you really want to look around and explore a bunch. Maybe this game will have exploration elements. I mean, certainly a platformer kind of does encourage that style of play. So what does a platformer need to be good? Well, basically, you just need to have really strong level design, and what I mean by that is that you need to have constantly changing, I guess, levels, game sense, game feel, you know? You can't just put the same pattern of level down, or even fall upon the same ideas. Like, you can't have spike, spike, spike in every single level you do. If the player ever feels like what they're doing is exactly what they did before, they ever get that sense of deja vu, then it immediately hurts the game so much, because platformers are already such a basic form of gameplay. Any repetition upon that can be super deadly to that form of platformer. I'd be interested to see if Fatcook tries to court the sort of hardcore platforming audience. If you look at Steam nowadays, there's things like Super Meat Boy, VVV, Wings of Vi, there's all sorts of these hardcore platforming games, and I have seen in not just the Greenlight, but just in the games that have been released, there's a lot of games that try to like court that audience with like hardcore platformer. I mean, my favorite game is Beyblade Pixel, so I should probably be on board with this trend. I love hardcore platforming, but I think I've had my fill of it, honestly. Like, I've played like 3 or 4 of those types of games. I don't really need more hardcore platforming, but that is an audience on Steam, and it's interesting to see if Fatcook tries to cater to that audience, or tries to be more general. As long as it's not super repetitive and the actual movement engine feels good to play. Like, the movement engine is actually much more important than I'm letting it on to be, but if it doesn't feel good to play, basically, then I expect Fatcook to be a lot of fun, because platformers shouldn't be too difficult to nail down. Next, we have Macbat 64, and for one thing, that sounds very similar to Mario 64, so I wonder if they're gonna have to change that title. What I appreciate about this is that it actually has gameplay in its trailer. What I don't appreciate about this is that the gameplay doesn't look... The game looks like it's from PS1. Right? Which might be intentional. I mean, this is the type of game that would try and nostalgia bait you into buying it, right? And hey, I'm all for that. There were some fantastic games that I loved, at least back in the PS1 era. What does this type of game need to succeed? It's a platformer, so it needs variation. Variety is the spice of life, right? As long as you're not repeating the same thing over and over, that's great. It's actually one of the reasons I really like that they included this sort of Mario Kart-esque screenshot going on. It's last 1 out of 5, my god. So, the thing about mini games, right, in these types of 3D platformers is that they're really good at breaking up the platforming. Now, of course, you're probably coming to this type of game for the platforming, but if you just keep doing the platforming, then I think a lot of the big studios found that just constantly doing platforming with no breaks was kind of boring. So they mix it up. Like in Spyro, they had that like forced flight section, right? It'll be interesting to see how much they implement the mini games, because I know in a lot of the big titles back in PS1, which you probably shouldn't aspire to be, but the mini games were used pretty sparingly in those titles. And I can only imagine that with this type of game, there's a danger of like the developer just going, oh, this is what people did back in PS1, so I may as well do it, you know, just not really thinking about why was this thing used. It's definitely something I would have done if I ever made a game. Is just like, this seems super successful, let me just copy it down, right? Hopefully that's not the case. The main character is a bat, so it's likely that he has some kind of movement tech, maybe like a double jump or like a little hover thing. That would be quite nice for like the platforming elements of the game. I wonder if it would also be kind of slow though. I remember Mario, I think it was Sunshine, with the hover thing. Mario Sunshine was a GameCube game, but it had this Mario wear this backpack called Flood, and it would let you hover in the air by shooting water downward, and I found it quite fun, but I know a lot of people hated the much slower form of platforming. So, you know, that would be one of the occasions where I would be like, yeah, I love this mechanic, but if I'm not forward thinking enough to see, okay, why is this mechanic good, why is this mechanic bad, and then I blindly implement it into my game, it might hurt the overall game, the overall pacing. I've actually not read the description yet, have I? Classic 3D platforming, 10 micro worlds. Not entirely sure what micro world means, but I'm going to assume it's like a level, right? Different gameplay styles and a lot of unique and characteristic NPCs to interact with. This is a little bit weird. Something PS1 was never good at was NPCs, right? Or story, for that matter. Games and stories have traditionally not gone on very well. They've gotten better over the past few generations. I'd say about PlayStation 3, Xbox One, we started getting some pretty good stories out, but they're still not exceptional. Even like today's games, I would say, don't excite me in the story department. Now, this game is very open about, hey, we have the platforming of the 90s. I don't know if that's a good thing. Well, it's probably a good thing, right? Because this is the type of nostalgia they're trying to cater to with their design, with their aesthetic, with their characters. So maybe it's good that they might have like a little bit... I remember the controls being kind of floaty, you know what I mean? With Spyro the Dragon especially, I remember there was a lot of times where you didn't have precise control over your character, although I suppose that's part of the challenge of platforming, isn't it? The one thing I want to look at for this game to improve on would be the camera. In those types of 3D games, the camera tend to clip into a wall, it tended to turn around and block vision of the character. It would move on its own sometimes for weird reasons. I don't even know what it was trying to do. Maybe auto-adjust for the terrain around Spyro. This is from my experience with Spyro the Dragon, of course. So if they could find a way to fix the camera issues that those games always had, then you know what? 10 out of 10 nostalgia baited me, I'll take it. I'm actually kind of excited to play this game now that I've thought about it more. I did give it a yes. So, fingers crossed, Cyactro, I am looking forward to seeing what you can do on this game. And if it'll actually be good, please don't nostalgia bait me or I'll cry. And yeah, those are the two games that I'm going to talk about. I'll link like the Twitters and I don't know if I can link Greenlight profiles in the description. Probably won't, but I'll definitely try and like link to Twitter. I would recommend that you guys follow the developers, follow the game. I think they're very interesting, and we'll see when they're released if there's anything that exposed them, I guess, as to being good or bad. This one I'm definitely looking forward to trying out, along with Polygons, which unfortunately hasn't been released yet. I've I've been trying to keep up with all of these older games, and if there's any interesting updates, I will keep you updated. Thank you all for watching. My name is nujumkey. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!